Hey, Falcons, NFL, and sports fans. Welcome to another episode of Atlanta Sports Unlimited, of NFL Jocks and Pigskins on Atlanta Sports Unlimited. Said the channel first. With Tom Pollen. Is this, which cat is this? Is this Zozo? Zozo. Zozo's with us this morning to begin the show. Yep. Chris behind the scenes. Chris, we should see your face just like Zozo.
Yeah.
I think Chris prefers to be behind the scenes. He's with us. He's with us today. And I'm Dave Holcomb. We got a busy show again, previewing week 4 in the NFL. We'll look back at week 3 as well, especially Thursday night. Has been providing us some big storylines the last couple of weeks, and that's the biggest storyline for this weekend in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa getting his head hit on the turf for the second time in the span of 5 days. Not good at all. We'll start the show there, but we're also going to talk about the Falcons and their first win of the season, and then they're welcoming the Cleveland Browns, a winnable game for them this Sunday, especially with Cleveland dealing with some injuries as well. And then we're going to talk a little bit. We teased it last week, Tom Brady, talk a little bit about him and his start. He lost in a all-time great matchup against Aaron Rodgers last weekend. But we'll talk about how we feel about Tom Brady after 3 weeks this season. And then we'll give you, of course, our week 4 picks against the spread and prize picks, which today's show, as always, brought to you by Prize Picks. Right. Download the app in your app store. And when you get started, and when you sign up, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit, up to $100. So free money right there. I was reading a little bit about investing this morning, and the article said 401k, when you donate to that or put money into that, it's like getting free money from your company, right?
It is.
I don't really know how it works. I'm not employed by anybody, so I don't have a 401k. But apparently it's free money. It's kind of like that. You get up to $100 of free money from Prize Picks when you use our promo code ASU.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's exactly what it is. You put in a certain amount of money, your employer puts in a certain amount of money, and it works out great because hopefully you have enough to retire on when you get to be my age. But
you're not close to retirement age.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, but definitely. And as I say, all the fun and frustration of fantasy football, doing prop picks.
Yeah. Well, I already teased the name of the channel at the top of the show, but I do want to also say, tune into our other videos on Atlanta Sports Unlimited, because it's just a really exciting time for Atlanta sports. I was at the Braves game last night. Braves are tied for first place again. They've been back and forth with the Mets all September, 5 games to go, 2 of them against the Mets. So really exciting baseball time. And of course, other storylines in baseball that are touched on our channel occasionally. Aaron Judge going for home run number 62, still on 61.
The all-time home run leader.
I've heard very polar opposite opinions on that subject. And you're on one end, and the guy I went to the baseball game last night is on the complete other side. But yeah, I still want to see him hit 62, though.
He's wrong.
Okay. I want to see him hit 62 regardless of.
So do I.
He's
had a season for the ages. I want to see it end on a positive note, and he will be hit the home runs for most home runs for a non-roided player in baseball history.
Yeah.
So,
it's been 20 years since anybody hit 60 home runs. I guess 19 years, I guess. And it's
technically enhanced, but yeah.
But I mean, even with the enhancement, it's been a while. 19 years is a long time to go without seeing somebody accomplish something. And then when you take out the roids, it's been more than 60 years since somebody's done it. So it's incredible what Aaron Judge is doing.
Yeah.
Pujols hit number 701 last night, so he's adding to his total. So incredible baseball news.
Yeah, 701 non-roided home runs.
Right. Got to include the non-roided.
Yep.
So check out Atlanta Sports Unlimited for your latest baseball information, and Georgia football as well. They beat Kent State last week, kind of closer than they wanted.
That was closer than a lot of people thought it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, but got the win and number one in the country as they head into. I forgot to look up who they're playing today. Do you know who they're playing today?
No, I didn't even look at it. I've been looking at all kinds of other things for our show, and I didn't look it up, but let's find out real here. Georgia Bulldog football. They are playing the Missouri Tigers today.
Missouri Tigers.
Okay. In Missouri.
There you go. All right. So that'll be, what time does that game start?
That starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay. All right.
So that is a night game. So everybody can take a nap, relax after the show, take a little nap, have a little something to eat, and then you'll be ready for Georgia football tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Chris is encouraging me to go on a little bit of a rant to start today's show. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant.
Go for it.
I was at the Braves game last night. And, this has kind of been happening all season long. I have upper deck seats. Okay. So there's no usher where I sit at the baseball game. And then when I go, I actually had nice seats in Houston a couple weeks ago. And somebody stopped me and wanted to look at my phone and make sure that I was sitting in the right section. I was like, what is this? They don't have this. And when my season tickets are in the upper deck, it's usher. So I get that, like, there's no usher where I sit.
Right.
But even if there's no usher and you're going to a baseball game that's really important this weekend, or if you're a Braves fan and you're going to a playoff game, do not get up in the middle of an at-bat. Just don't do it. Wait until the at-bat is over to go get your food or go to the bathroom.
Yes.
I will get up as many times as you want me to let you by. Right. I don't care about that. Just don't get up when Matt Olson is up and Austin Riley just hit a home run. And then as you're walking by me, Matt Olson hits another home run. And miss back-to-back jacks because somebody needed to go get some food.
Yeah. Yeah, you can wait a little bit to go get the nachos, go get the hot dogs and stuff like that, and take it easy. This stuff's still going to be there, so go ahead and relax and wait until most of the time is wait until the inning is over.
Yeah, that's even better. Wait until the inning is over to go get your food and come back.
That's when you go get stuff.
Wait until the at-bat is over before you go back into your row as well. Yes. That's really important. That's where the usher comes in. The usher will stop you, but if there's no usher, you have to police yourself.
Right.
Do not go into the row until the at-bat is over. Not between pitches, because that's not enough time. That's not enough time for everybody to get up and you to go across everybody. Do it in between at-bats.
Right.
It's not social hour at the Braves game. There's a game going on that people want to watch.
Yes, exactly. So that's the thing. So, and it happens a lot more than it used to.
It does.
You be more considerate about it.
I went to games with my dad, obviously, growing up. He was why I love baseball, and he had season tickets for the Pirates. We went to games all the time, and we didn't need an usher to tell us when to go down. He taught my sister and I when we were little kids when you go in and out of a row at a baseball game.
Yeah.
And people don't care anymore. It's very infuriating. My season tickets are going to be in the first row next year because that just seems to be the only way to avoid this. It's the only way to avoid it. But anyway, don't want to spend the show, ranting.
No, but it's a frustrating thing, and it shouldn't be happening. It's just a common courtesy, and I don't know why it's so tough to show common courtesy anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I was at, my seats were in the 6th row in the upper deck, and somebody in the 1st row last night decided randomly to just start standing up during a Braves at bat. She's just standing up. My friend and I, we couldn't see the plate because she's standing. Even though we were 5 rows up from her, she's standing, and her head is right where home plate is. And she sat down after one at bat. I was like, okay, I don't know why you had to stand for that at bat, but
Right.
at least you're sitting now. Well, a couple innings later, she started doing it again, and she was standing for consecutive at bats. It's like, what are you doing? Sit down. And then other Braves fans started yelling at her to sit down. So, and she was a Braves fan. It wasn't like it was a Mets fan trying to get under our skin. She was a Braves person, Braves fan, and other Braves fans. You're in the wrong when like your team's fans are also getting on you, or they're the ones that are mad at you. So,
right.
But anyway, those are my stories from the upper deck at the Braves game last night. Braves did win, so that was fun, and it was fireworks.
Yeah, they're giving the Mets all they can handle. As far as I'm concerned, there aren't enough bad things that can happen to the Mets. So, the Braves can steal that division away from the Mets. I'm all for it. I'm behind it. I still have not forgiven the Mets for 1969. And I will never forgive the Mets for 1969.
Yeah, I knew exactly why you didn't like the Mets. Yeah, I remember you telling this story. Very, very passionate about 1969 baseball season, which you should be for what happened back then. But my friend is a Mets fan, and he was, I think he's a Mets fan.
No, I'm saying I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And he thinks the Mets are going to be like the 2021 Giants, like. Out of nowhere, they've had an amazing season this year, but next year it's going to prove to be kind of a fluke. So basically what he's saying is he thinks the Braves are a much better team. The Braves should win this division. But, we'll see. 5 games to go, and they're in a deadlock tie. Next 2 days could determine it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So should be fun.
Let's talk some NFL. Not as fun of a conversation talking about what happened with Tua Tagovailoa on Thursday night. All kidding aside, it's not a huge deal when you step in front of somebody at baseball. It's just a common courtesy that makes me angry. The Tua thing makes me angry, and it's really serious.
Yes, it is.
What happened to Tua is a really big problem that somebody should be fired for. And I don't know how much of really a background we need to give. I feel like if you're tuning into this show, you know what happened to Tua Tagovailoa, but in case maybe you didn't see it, he hit his head on the turf Sunday against the Bills. Couldn't stand up. I mean, just to put it frankly, he was shaking his head,
right,
and then staggered and couldn't stand straight. And his teammates needed to help him to the sideline. Yep. And after the game, the Dolphins said he had a back injury, and that was why he couldn't stand up.
Tweaked his back. That's why he couldn't stand. Yeah, that is just disgusting.
He missed a few plays. He did go into the concussion protocol. According to the Dolphins, he cleared concussion protocol and went back into the game after halftime. The hit on his head on the turf happened just before halftime, so he did have like a period of 20 minutes, 15 minutes, however long halftime is, to recover as well. But, I mean, anybody who's been following the NFL knows that if you have a concussion, that's not enough time. And immediately after the game, the NFL Players Association says we're going to investigate whether or not the Dolphins actually had Tua in the concussion protocol and if he actually cleared it. I haven't heard anything if they've found anything in that investigation. I guess it's going to take some time. But it's kind of unfortunate that they weren't able to come to any conclusions before Thursday night's game, because although Tua was questionable going into the game with a back and ankle injury, nothing to do with his head.
Nothing to do with his head, but it was his head. Let's not mince words here. It was his head. It was his head last Sunday. I think the Dolphins and whatever neurologist that they had on the sideline are criminally responsible for it, because there's no doubt that he was in concussion, and they didn't. Concussion protocol has been a joke. They've been trying to take the teeth out of it ever since it was implemented. And just because they need Tua, he's a star quarterback. He's having a great season so far. You're playing the Bills, you're playing your rivals. We got to get out there. We got to get our man out there. And that was all it added up to. It had nothing to do with Tua's well-being.
Right.
Absolutely nothing to do with Tua's well-being. And then they put him back out on the field 4 days later.
Right, because despite being questionable going into Thursday's game, Tua did start, and he hits his head on the his head on the turf again, but getting thrown down in a very similar way. What's kind of ironic is we've just been so cognizant of helmet-to-helmet hits, and neither one of these hits for Tua were helmet-to-helmet. They were his helmet against the ground both times, and very clearly. I thought it was pretty clear the first time, but the hit on Thursday, Tua's hands and arms go into what's called fencing response, which is a unnatural position of the arms following a brain trauma injury, such as a concussion. And that just no denying that he suffered a head injury, brain injury, maybe very serious brain injury with the hit on Thursday. And I don't want to pass myself off as a concussion expert. I did take a sports medicine class in high school. So I think at that time, which was a while ago now, I think I knew more about concussions than the average person. I think concussion knowledge has really advanced since then, when I was in sports med in 2007. But I still think not enough people know that concussions are bad. But the really bad concussion is when you get a concussion and you still haven't recovered from the first one.
Right.
The second hit to your head shortly after the first one, that's the really, really bad situation.
Yeah.
And that's what the Dolphins potentially were putting Tua in on Thursday, starting him. And that's exactly what happened. Him suffering 2 hits to the head in 5 days.
Yeah. And that was scary Thursday night because, as you say, his arms, his fingers were just you could see that his brain was not sending correct signals to his extremities. It was just terrible. His hands stiffened up, his hands bent in just sickening ways.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, no, we're not experts as far as brain injury. I will tell you that a brain expert, a man who's head of a national concussion research, CTE research, Chris Nowinski, came out and said before the game that
he shouldn't be playing.
No, absolutely said he shouldn't be playing. I'm trying to find a tweet here.
Okay.
He goes, if Tua takes the field tonight, it's a massive step back for concussion care in the NFL.
Yeah.
If he has a second concussion that destroys his season or career, everyone involved will be sued and should lose their jobs, coaches included. We all saw it, even though they must know this isn't right. And he's talking about that previous Sunday when Tua hit the ground and was very critical of the Dolphins for putting him back into the game after that head injury against Buffalo. He says, I'm calling bullshit on the back tweak theory. Watch the vid. Tua shakes his head multiple times to clear the cobwebs, which is a specific sign of vision impairment after concussion. He also wobbles getting up before falling. His return is a fail. All right, and this is a man who knows concussions, knows the effect of traumatic brain injury.
Right.
So just, absolutely sickening that he was rushed through what they want to call a concussion protocol. It's and just because, and the Amazon Prime broadcast has cracked me up.
Well, I was going to bring that up, and I don't mean to correct you, but I was writing about this, and I kept wanting to say broadcast, and I was like, well, they're not broadcasting. It's not over the air. So the Amazon Prime streaming coverage, is that what we have to call it now?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it's very angry. I mean, we got to make sure we imply that it's not over the air because people are very angry of the fact it's not over the air. But yeah, what do you want to say about their coverage? Because I didn't watch the whole coverage. I didn't see the halftime coverage of their response to the Tua injury, the talking heads at halftime. But from what I read on Twitter, it was like they didn't want to actually address the issue of what happened on Sunday and then why it was so bad that this again happened 5 days later, 4 days later.
No, they avoided that issue completely. Their whole focus during halftime was, well, he is moving his extremities. And that's basically what they kept trying to emphasize. He's moving his extremities. Well, that doesn't mean he doesn't have a traumatic brain injury.
Right.
All right.
This wasn't a tackle where he was potentially paralyzed. And we're worried about him moving his arms and legs. Yeah.
Richard Sherman, who actually wrote a piece years ago about how he hated Thursday nights, how Thursday nights were dangerous, did not say a word about the fact that Tua was on the field 4 nights, 4 days after his previous traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Money talks. It's amazing. You get paid, a couple of gazillion dollars, and next thing you know, your opinion seems to change a little bit. Maybe Thursday night football isn't as bad as it as you made it out to be now that you're getting paid.
Right. Now that you have a job that only exists because of Thursday night football.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. You don't know it right now, but it could dramatically impact Tua's career. Yeah, I know. Everybody wants to make a case that he was on the plane. He was watching a movie with his coach. They were laughing. It doesn't mean he doesn't have a traumatic brain injury. All right? You're focusing on the wrong stuff. And he really needs an MRI to find the extent of the injury. It's not as easy to read traumatic brain injury, I know, but the experts that I have read who saw this, looked at this, just, couldn't believe, thought it was criminal that the Dolphins had Tua out there on Thursday night.
Yeah. I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, but the doctor that discovered CTE that Will Smith plays in the movie Concussion, he had an interview with, I believe it was TMZ. He didn't. I don't think he's come out and said anything since Thursday, although I guess I haven't exactly looked. I looked late Thursday night, and I found his interview with TMZ talking about how he shouldn't have gone back in the game on Sunday.
No.
So the fact that, he was playing again Thursday, I know that Dr. Umala.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah. That he would absolutely be against, him playing on Thursday. And what was interesting, he also put it on Tua. He didn't put it on the doctors and the team necessarily. He put it on Tua Tagovailoa coming forward and saying, hey, I can't play, that I don't feel right. I shouldn't go back in. And I wouldn't blame Tua entirely, but, I thought that was an interesting take that I think it was a few years ago, it was 2015, Roethlisberger had a hit to the head that he just didn't 100% feel right, and he didn't go back in. And people were kind of, I don't know, questioning. Maybe a couple people questioned his toughness. A couple people were like, really? What are you doing? But it was like, I thought it was actually a mature decision from Roethlisberger, maybe one of the few times he was mature, that
I wasn't going to say that.
that he put his own life and health ahead of football. But the I think the important emphasis is, though, that Roethlisberger, this happened in 2015. He had been in the league for 11, 12 years. He had been a Pro Bowl quarterback. He'd won multiple Super Bowls. He felt comfortable telling his coach and team,
right,
I can't go back in.
Right.
Tua isn't in that position yet.
No.
Tua's still trying to prove he is a franchise quarterback and that he's a starter in this league and all that stuff, and that he's the leader of this team. And so he feels inclined that he has to go back.
He has to.
And that's the culture that needs to change. That is the culture in the NFL that you just got to suck it up and rub some dirt on it and go back in. You cannot do that with a concussion.
Well, and see, that's the thing. But, we've all played sports, high school, later on. And we've all, even as kids in grade school and, playing out in the fields, playing satellite baseball or whatever. And that's what we grow up to feel like that's what you have to do. You rub dirt on it and you get back up, you go back in the game.
Yeah.
No matter how bad it is, you rub dirt on it, go back. And that's how we're trained as we grow up. And I don't blame Tua for that, thinking I have to get back out there. I'm the leader. I have things to prove, and I need to get back out there.
Right.
That's why you're supposed to have independent neurologists who have the power to pull him back.
That's true.
Say, no, you're not ready.
Tua's not supposed to be in the position to decide himself.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
So I don't blame Tua at all, because that's how you're trained as an athlete, that I'm tough. I can get back out. I can play through anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other people may be affected, but no, me, I'm not affected by this. I can do this.
And I don't think that mindset is a bad thing. I think it's great when it's not an injury like a concussion and other life-threatening type injuries. Like I know Steven Stamkos a few years ago played a Game 7 in the playoffs after he'd recovered from a stroke. And doctors were, if he was not okay to play Game 6 because he was recovering from a stroke, which was 2 days earlier, what was the difference, 48 hours later? Oh, the difference was it was a Game 7. That's why he stuck it up and said, okay, I'm going to rub some dirt on it and play for my team, which I thought was really dumb because he could have died.
Could have
died. He had just recently had a stroke and he played. So injuries like that and concussions, you don't play through that. No. That's really dumb.
Yes.
And that's and I don't mean to call Tua dumb. I just think that the idea of we're going to play through this injury needs to change in the NFL.
Tua's doing what he's been told he had to do his entire life. Get back up and go out there. If you can stand up and you can call plays, you go ahead and get back out there. You're fine. You can play. And that's basically how, as I say, even kids growing up, we've all played sports. We've all done it. Hurt ourselves and got back in. And you go through that from grade school to college to pros. And it's your mindset. It's your mindset that, I'm the quarterback. So I am the guy that they count on. And I have to be out there. So you can't blame Tua for the fact that he thinks that way. You got to kind of pull him aside and say, no, this could severely impact your health. All right. Yeah. That's not on his mind. That's not what he's thinking. And he doesn't know any better.
Right. Yeah. And Tua's a young guy that maybe didn't have sports med like I did, and doesn't know the impact concussions can have on you, and hasn't played long enough to have suffered a couple, getting his bell rung a couple times, as they used to say, where he doesn't know the impact.
Right.
Or hasn't seen it in other players that have gotten hit in the head or whatever. He just hasn't been around long enough to know that. So there's a level of naiveness and doesn't know better.
Yeah.
To Tua, and you're absolutely right that he should not be in a position to decide whether or not he plays. The independent neurologist on the field is supposed to say, Tua, you're not ready to go back in.
Right. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
That's why it was insisted that there be independent neurologists, so that coaches couldn't have an independent, have a way of trying to influence team doctors.
Right.
Well, this guy isn't a team doctor. He's not being paid by the team.
Right.
So he can have a separate,
have an unbiased opinion on it.
Right.
Right. So We got to move on to other topics, but one last thing I want to ask you. I mean, what is your reaction to this being the Dolphins? This is a team that's the franchise that's being, sued by Brian Flores, which is another storyline that maybe didn't belong in Thursday night's narrative, but was glossed over when talking. They went on and on complimenting Mike McDaniel, which, I mean, he was off to a 3-0 start, so he deserves it. But the reason why he's head coach is because of this nasty situation between the Dolphins and Brian Flores, not mentioned at all during the Thursday night coverage. And 4 weeks into a new head coaching tenure, we have this new controversy. I mean, what does that say about the Dolphins, or is it just a coincidence?
No, it's not a coincidence. It tells me that it just reinforces in my mind what a crap, what an organization that the Dolphins are, and that where their priorities are, and who they are from the top down. And I don't think this is any coincidence that this was the Dolphins. I think other teams might have handled it better. But no, I'm not surprised with this ownership and with what happened with Flores and going on down from there. No, I think the fact it is the Dolphins has something to do with this.
And that's really too bad because, I mean, it's been a while since the Dolphins are really competitive. They started the season 3-0, one of only 2 3-0 teams, now 3-1, but I've beaten the Bills and the Ravens, 2 contenders in the AFC. So it puts a little sting out of puts a little sting into their start for me that, this isn't a team that on most weeks I'm going to really be pulling for, even though they have some exciting players and an exciting offense and a franchise that has a fan base that hasn't seen a lot of success in a while.
Right. It's been a while, but and it's, I do feel bad because I did like the Dolphins a lot growing up. I liked a lot of their players, the way they played football, how tough they were, how, what an organization it is. Huge fan of Don Shula. And, you kind of like that, but you look at the way this ownership has handled the team, the way this whole ownership has handled problems that have come up. Just to me, it's an organization that keeps trying to hide behind its culpability or hide its culpability, in certain situations. And I think this is just another one. And I wanted Mike McDaniel to just shut up during his press conference.
Yeah.
Please. It's, I wasn't impressed. And Mike McDaniels, you've seen concussions. You've seen what concussions can do to players. You put TUA out there, even though deep down you knew what situation you were putting him into. That's the way it adds up to me.
And I think, we're not there. We're not on the sideline, but seeing the replay of what happened Sunday and then seeing him go immediately back in and play also on Thursday, it's hard to disagree with that. So we'll leave it at that. Mad Mike's Sports agrees with us. Exactly. He's really disgusted. Gary has a funny comment about Flores being in Pittsburgh. Tua probably wishes he was in Pittsburgh too. Well, I think Steelers fans wish that Tua was.
I think Steelers fans, Steelers fans have seen enough of Mitch Trubisky. I think, Steelers fans were trying to be optimistic, saying, it was the Matt Nagy's fault that Mitch Trubisky failed in Chicago. But no, it was Mitch Trubisky. You're seeing why the Bears finally gave up on Trubisky.
Well, I don't want to go down a Trubisky road, but Steelers have a lot of problems other than quarterback. But yes, they would absolutely love to have Tua over Mitch Trubisky.
Yes, they would.
But let's talk about the Falcons getting their first win against the Seahawks last week. and playing the Cleveland Browns without Myles Garrett. I mean, normally I think that would be the biggest story of the week, right? Myles Garrett was in a pretty serious car accident, questionable to coming into this game, overshadowed, I guess, his off the field injury versus Tua's on field issue. But this is a winnable game for the Falcons. They could get back to 2-2, but I think it's going to be a tough one because Nick Chubb presents a lot of problems for a lot of teams, and I think he's going to present a big problem for the Falcons on Sunday.
Yeah, it's not a fact that, and the Falcons' defense hasn't been the side of the ball that's impressed me. Their offense has played some very good football. I think they've been in games because of their offense. I think Mariota's done a fairly good job at quarterback. I still think he's late to get to his secondary reads. But the fact that Cordero Patterson's just picking up where he left off last year.
Yeah.
And has been huge. Drake London has been a huge addition to that Falcons offense. Kyle Pitts showed up last week and had a good game. So a lot of things to be encouraged about on this Falcons offense. But Nick Chubb does pose a nasty challenge for that defense, and that defense has struggled.
I think the defense has played better than I thought they would, but against the run, yeah, I think they've struggled. They haven't really improved since last year. They are 16th. I think they're 16th. Double checking that. 14th in total rushing yards allowed, but they are 22nd in rushing yards allowed per attempt. So the efficiency on the ground, not there against the run for the Falcons defense. And I think Nick Chubb's going to have a really big game. He's going to be one of my picks coming up for Brad's picks.
I think he has to be.
And I think he's going to give the Browns a small edge in this one.
Yeah, I think he does. Because, you're still looking at Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, who, I'm sorry, is just not a guy you want to be leaning on as a quarterback so far. But Nick Chubb has made it work that they've been able to win with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. Because you have this monster running back that can run through anybody, that gives everybody problems. And it's going to be a big problem for the Falcons, because I don't think Amari Cooper he had the impact that everybody thought he would. But again, that's because you got a guy at quarterback who's basically serviceable. He's not going to be he's never going to lead a team to a Super Bowl. He's a serviceable backup.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to win the Super Bowl, but he looked pretty good Thursday. And he looked okay, I guess, the first two games. But I thought I can see the Browns the Browns offense looking like they did against the Steelers. The Steelers playing without TJ Watt. They didn't have an answer to stop Chubb, and they didn't get enough pressure on Brissett, who found David Njoku. He found Amari Cooper open down the field.
Yes.
Does the Falcons defense bring anything to the table that they can do differently that the Steelers weren't able to do to slow down Brissett? I'm not sure they do. I think Brissett is going to have another decent game against Atlanta.
Right now, I don't know. Defensively, they haven't shown enough to me that they're ready to rely on their defense to get a hold when they need it. It's just they haven't advanced as well on defense as I would like to see.
Okay. Yeah.
They're 26th in the league in points per yard allowed. And that's, teams don't have to work as hard to score against the Falcons as they do against other teams in the league. They turn their yardage. Opposing teams turn their yardage into points against the Falcons. Basically, that's what that's saying. And that's a difficult thing because, until you can stop that, I mean, the Browns have a statistical advantage everywhere on both sides of the ball, except for a couple of different, the plus minus, the net passing yards per attempt, which Mariota has been good as far as getting the ball to his receivers downfield. But,
yeah,
the Falcons aren't turning their yardage into points, are failing to keep their opponents from turning yards into points. Yardage doesn't matter to any, you can gain 300 yards, not score. I mean, or score, single digits. It's a matter of, can you put the ball in the end zone? The yards are not on the scoreboard. All right. And that's why I think it's ridiculous that people judge offenses and defenses by how many yards they've given. Yards don't go on the scoreboard. Points, it's how they turn those yards into points that matter. And the Falcons are not preventing opposing teams from turning their yards, turning their opportunities into points. And that's the rough part about the Falcons start. And that's what we need to see an improvement on. Can you take a short field and bend enough, maybe give up a field goal, but not give up a touchdown, keep an opponent out of the end zone? Can you keep them from driving long, full fields and keep them out of the end zone? That's what it all boils down to. And the Falcons have not been good at that yet. They have not been good about getting consistent pressure on the quarterback yet. All right. They still have a lot of improvement to do as far as their pass rush. Yeah. And, Casey Hayward has not been good in the secondary. He was targeted. His receiver was targeted last week, and that receiver had 10 catches. All right. He did not shut down anybody last week. So, it's hard when you got A.J. Terrell, but Casey Hayward is giving up big catches and big yards.
Well, they talked about on the broadcast last week that A.J. Terrell was off to a slow start too. He hasn't played up to his potential, at least through the first 2 weeks. I think he was a little bit better in week 3, but he's not playing like a Pro Bowler like people thought he was, or even all pro coming into the season. We really hyped him up as a top 2 or 3 cornerback in the league.
Did, yes.
Coming into the year, and he hasn't been that yet either.
No, and that's been another problem why, having this pass rush that's still not coming through for the Falcons, that's a big problem for the secondary because you're letting a quarterback sit back there an extra second or two. And the more time you get, I don't care who you're facing in the NFL. You give an NFL quarterback enough time, he's going to find a receiver.
Yeah.
You cannot cover forever. At some point, your coverage is going to break down. And that's what you run into is that, but then their coverage is not giving their defensive line a chance to get to the quarterback. It works both ways.
Sure.
So it's a very frustrating thing to see, but Dean Pease has not been able to scheme around this yet, or he just doesn't have the players to scheme around it. And I think we're finding out that the Falcons are still too weak on defense to be able to impose their will on a football game.
We have some comments from a listener, Dave. Guys, I know how good the Browns running game is, but I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. The Falcons will eventually have to force Brissett to throw the ball down the field. That's absolutely what they have to do. I just don't know if I have the confidence that they're going to be able to do it, that they're going to be able to slow down Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt enough where Brissett is the guy that's going to have to beat them. And then he has another comment about Coach Pease and the Browns being overrated. We're still trying to figure out who's rated correctly, who's not in a lot of cases. So I don't know if the Browns are overrated or not. They are 2-1. They've beaten some bad teams. They lost to a bad team. So, but we don't know if the Falcons are a good team yet. So we can't necessarily say that Browns were overhyping the Browns for just only beating the Steelers and the Panthers. Well, I mean, I don't know if the Falcons are going to end up being better, significantly better than the Panthers or Steelers, to be honest. I think they're probably in the same. I think they're better than the Panthers. We'll see that when they play. But I think the Steelers and Falcons are about the same level at this point.
Yeah, at this point, you're right. But the Browns are more efficient on offense because of that running game. They can move the football. That's the problem for Dean Pease and the Atlanta defense. To force Brissett to play quarterback, you have got to shut that run game down. And, to force Brissett to be the one to beat you. And I think if they can force Brissett to be the one to beat them, yeah, they do have a good chance of winning this game. Because I think Atlanta's offense have shown that they can be effective. They've been effective, so far in all 3 games. But the problem is Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are a difficult combination to shut down. And I don't know if this Falcons defense is capable of shutting them down. The Falcons are 19th in rushing yards per attempt allowed, 4.8. That's not going to get it done against this Cleveland Browns team. So they're going to have to find a way to increase their defensive pressure, increase their effectiveness on the line, not letting Chubb or Kareem Hunt get to the second level and have to take on, these runners with your linebackers or secondary. You've got to be able to take them on with your defensive line. And I don't know if Atlanta's capable of that right now.
I agree. I think Cleveland's going to win a close game. Dave has one other comment for us. He doesn't necessarily think the Falcons are a good team right now, but they have to beat a good team at home. That would be nice. It really would be nice for them to get a nice home win against a team that has a winning record, whether or not you think the Browns are going to end up being a playoff team or not. They're 2-1 right now. So it would be a nice win and get back to 500. That was a big conversation last year that this team kept failing to move above 500. Can't do that this weekend, but they can get back to 500 at the beginning of October, which is, still a pretty significant thing for the Arthur Smith regime.
Yeah, it is. Because, you're right. We talked all last year about how they were ready to maybe try and make that climb over 500. But the fact is they were playing a winning team at that point, and they weren't beating winning teams last year. If you had a team that was above 500, the Falcons were not beating them. Now they beat Seattle last week, but you're supposed to beat Seattle. That's a team you're supposed to beat. If you don't beat them, then you got problems. Now the Falcons did beat them. So, that's a positive right there. You beat a team that you're supposed to win.
Yeah, it's a positive. On the road in a tough place to play.
Right.
A place where Denver wasn't able to win a few weeks earlier. So, I think that was a big positive. But, another step forward would be a home win against a tougher opponent than the Seahawks. The Browns are a better team than the Seahawks.
Yeah, exactly. So now we'll see a little bit more of what the Falcons are made of this year. Can they crack down on their defensive line play? And, God, we have been talking about this. How long have we been writing and talking about the Falcons, Dave? I mean, it's been a while. We keep talking about the same things.
Yeah, the defensive line. I know.
It's just, it's never improved. It's never gotten better. And we have to see better from these guys. We got to see some of these young guys develop and be the man, be the guy that, be the guys that you drafted them to be. We've got to start seeing that. And so far, it's been a disappointment. They played tough in all 3 of their games. Let's put it that way. That's a positive. That's something to look, you can look at and say, okay, that's, we've done pretty well. You let the Saints back into it. You got beat. You came back. You got a punt return for a touchdown. You tried to come back against the Rams. You got beat. Played a back and forth game against Seattle last week, but you ended up showing some toughness and coming out and winning that game. So that's a positive. Now build on that positive. Build on what you've done well so far this year.
Real quick, because we got to get to our picks. We only have 10 minutes left. Let's give Dave an honest assessment.
I don't think Pease has done enough to really offset the lack of talent on, there's certain things you could do as a coach. He's tried to bring pressure, but the problem is he tries to bring zone pressure, and then quarterbacks find the hole in the zone. So you've got to do something to clean that up. If you're going to bring a safety, if you're going to bring a defensive back, if you're going to bring a linebacker on quarterback pressure, you've got to have somebody who can cover that zone, because it seems like opposing quarterbacks know where the rush is coming from and how they can combat it. And that's the big problem. And I think Pease is trying to do what he can with what he has. I'm not so sure that he's done that a lot of this doesn't sit back on him. I don't know. It's tough to tell when you don't have the personnel that's coming through. Is it the fact that it's coaching that is keeping them from playing better than they're playing right now? We're going to find that out as the season goes on. Right now, I'm not impressed with the way Pease has run this defense.
Okay. I think that's very fair. I would give it like a C. I agree. It's kind of hard to tell. A little bit of, I want to give him an incomplete, but if I got to give him a grade, based on what he's got to do something with who he's got. And as we've talked about for the last 20 minutes, they're not enough is being done with what they have. And, some of their best players aren't playing all that well. And that's also a reflection on Dean Pease. So I wouldn't give him a better than a C.
Well, as I say, Casey Hayward, this is a guy who was supposed to help solidify your secondary.
Right.
Gave up 10 receptions on 10 targets.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
but we got to get to your picks, Tom. We got 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes left in the show.
Yeah.
So who do you got against the spread in week 4?
Oh, and I got to apologize. I've been going to the nose a lot during this show. I've been dealing with some bad hay fever over the last couple of days. So kind of playing hurt a little bit today, but other than that, yeah. Just trying to deal with the remnants of hay fever. Cool weather, you get a lot of junk in the air, and it's not been good to me this week. So, all right, my picks. Tomorrow morning, a.m. in London. Take the Minnesota Vikings -3 over the Saints. The Saints do not have Jameis Winston. They don't have Thomas. They're missing a couple of guys on defense. Minnesota has not played great this season, but he has the potential to really score. They have receivers. They are tough on defense. I don't think the Saints are going to make this a game. So go ahead and take the Vikings -3. That did open up as the Vikings -1. So you better start grabbing that before bettors, add another point or two to that spread, because once Winston and Thomas went down, this spread is starting to widen up a little bit. Take advantage when you can get it. Baltimore Ravens +3 over the Buffalo Bills. I'm saying Buffalo has too many injuries right now. They still have too many injuries on defense.
Yeah.
They are facing an offense that is really playing at a top level this year. Lamar Jackson's come out and he's come out with a purpose. He wants to show people that he's not a fluke as a quarterback, that he's a guy who can get the job done through the air as well as with his legs. And Lamar Jackson's just playing at another level right now. And I would give the Bills more of a chance. However, too many injuries on offense and defense. Oliver is hurt, their nose tackle, and which is a terrible loss in the middle of their line. Gabe Davis is hurt. They just got too many people on their injury list right now. They may play, but they're playing hurt. And Baltimore is in great shape for this game. They got everybody, relatively healthy. I think Baltimore wins this game, and I think they beat the 3 points. Texans plus 5.5 versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers, again, dealing with a lot of injuries. Herbert did not look good with the ribs last week. He had good numbers, but boy, they got, without Bosa on the field, man, that defense just crumbled against are the Jacksonville Jaguars this good? Are they truly as good as Doug Peterson really have them play? Is that team as good as better than we thought it would be heading into this season?
I think they are.
Because, man, they destroyed.
I mean, I don't know if they're 28 points better than the Chargers. No, probably not. But Chargers dealing with a lot of injuries and whatnot. But I think that the way the Titans and Colts are playing also, are the Jaguars now the favorite in the AFC South? Maybe. I mean, we'll see. I want to see the Colts play the Titans this week, so I want to kind of see how they go against each other. And Colts have a big win last week, so let's see if they can build on that momentum. Titans won for the first time too, so let's see if they can build on that. But I think the Jaguars are going to be in the mix in that division.
Yeah, so do I. I'm beginning to think so. A lot better. Doug Peterson's got that squad playing pretty damn good. I'm going to be interested to see how they play in Philadelphia this week.
Yeah.
Against another team that is starting to emerge. Against a quarterback who is starting to emerge. Because Jalen Hurts is playing some incredible football right now. And he's showing that he's the quarterback that the Eagles thought they were getting when they drafted him. So that's going to be another game to enjoy. There's some really good games this weekend. So it's going to be fun to see. But I'm not taking the Texans to win. I think the Chargers win. However, the Texans are getting 5.5 points. And I think they can keep this game close. They tend to play better in Houston than they do on the road. And they're playing this game in Houston. So take the Texans plus the 5.5 against the banged up Chargers team.
Okay. And I loved you giving some love to my MVP pick last week, Lamar Jackson. Had to throw that in there that, before the big game against the Patriots last week, I had him as my MVP before Josh Allen lost to the Dolphins. So
yeah, did. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Josh Allen's still up there too. Jalen Hurts. I think if I was going to do my MVP pick, for this week, I was thinking about maybe going with 3 guys instead of this one, especially so early in the season. Those are the 3 guys I'm looking at, Tom. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, right now it's hard to argue.
Yeah.
Right. We'll get a better look as the season goes on, but Hurts is playing like an NFL quarterback. He is, even when he is rolling out, running, he has an option to run. He's keeping his eyes downfield. And that's always something you want to see out of a young quarterback. Is he dropping his eyes and running, or is he keeping the eyes downfield, looking for that receiver who's coming free at the last second? He's keeping his eyes downfield. He's playing like a quarterback this year.
Yeah, not just a runner. He's
not just a runner. He's looking for that guy to make a play with. So really, with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, you got guys that and Dallas Goedert at tight end. You got guys who are going to make plays for you. Give them a chance, they'll make plays for you. And Hurts is looking for those guys and is saying, okay, make plays for me. And that has been a big difference with the Eagles so far this year. And it's been fun to watch his development as a quarterback.
Well, what are your prize picks this week?
I'm I am taking James Robinson, running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, 51.5 rushing yards. I say take that over. He's been averaging 60 yards a game, been running effectively again after an injury last year. Very impressed with what we've been seeing out of Robinson. So go ahead and take James Robinson. Going back to the Bears, take Khalil Herbert. David Montgomery's hurt. Khalil Herbert's going to be doing most of the running back duties for the Bears. And the Bears just crushed. They ran over.
Houston?
Just ran over Houston last week. It was really impressive the way their running game was clicking. And Khalil Herbert is averaging over 6 yards a carry. I think ran for like 125 yards last week. I forget how many, but in 19 carries, ran for over 100 yards. This is a guy who's been running very effectively, and I think he's going to get his yards against the Giants. So that's my second pick. I've been having problems getting a third pick in there.
Really?
I would say Zach Ertz over 24.5 receiving yards. Arizona is not playing well, but they're down another couple of receivers this week. AJ Green is out. Marquise Brown is on the injury report. We'll see how healthy he is. But there aren't a lot of healthy targets for Kyler Murray this week, and Zach Ertz is still a reliable target. He's only at 24.5 receiving yards. Take the over on him.
Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Sign up for the app, and when you do, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Use that promo code ASU. Again, that gets you the match. And we have some picks for you to win some money in week 4. What was your first pick again, Tom?
Vikings by 3 over the
I'm sorry, your first prize pick.
Oh, James Robinson over
James
51.5 yards.
So you got James Robinson, Khalil Herbert, and Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Rushing yards for the first two guys and receiving for Ertz, all going over. I've got 3 picks as well that I'll give you real quick. I like Nick Chubb over 88.5 rushing yards against the Falcons defense. Jamal Williams, Detroit Lions running back, over 62.5 rushing yards against the Seahawks. Seahawks have the 3rd worst rushing defense in the league.
DeAndre Swift is hurt.
Right, exactly. So Williams had over that total, 62.5 last week. And Swift did play a little bit. Swift, I don't think, might not play at all this week. And Williams, I think, is going to –
He's out. Swift is out.
Williams is going to get a lot of carries. I think he goes over that 62.5. And I got Matt Ryan, 235.5 passing yards. I'm going under. This is going to be a Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry game between the Colts and Titans. And I don't think Ryan is going to be asked to do a whole lot. And if he is, I think the Colts are going to be in trouble. They will not get more than 235 passing yards.
Good picks. I like them. We got to talk about Matt Ryan in the next couple of weeks because I'm beginning to wonder if he's not through. If time has caught up to Matty Ice.
I don't know if I've said this on the show before, but anybody who's asked me about Ryan in the first 3 weeks, I've said the same thing. I've said I don't think he can elevate an offense anymore. I don't think he's capable of doing that. He has to be in a position where his receivers and offensive line are all perfect. And he's also dealing with a new system. And I think we've underestimated that across the league. Russell Wilson's dealing with a new system. Matt Ryan is. And all these quarterbacks, we saw Tom Brady win the Super Bowl in his first year. We saw Matthew Stafford win the Super Bowl in his first year. But remember how bad Brady was at times with the Buccaneers early in that season?
He was.
They were like 2-2 or maybe 3-3 or 3-2. And they were not good at times. Other times they were great. but it didn't really come together until the end of the season. And I think that's, if you're struggling with Wilson as your fantasy quarterback, or you're a Colts fan, you're like, why isn't Matt Ryan the solution to our quarterback woes of the last few years? Give him some time. It doesn't happen overnight. If it's going to happen, it'll be, I think, by December.
Okay. We'll see. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And, the Falcons play the Buccaneers next week. So I think tabling our Tom Brady conversation until then is kind of fitting. We'll talk more Tom Brady next week. I do want to end our show, though, with kind of a new in-season tradition we started, my grade for NFL Plus, and then my Super Bowl pick. So I'm giving it an NFL Plus a C- again. I think that was my grade last week.
Yep.
The same problems are popping up. I was so excited about NFL Plus before the season, and I was so excited about them. I could have been a spokesperson for them. I really was excited about the possibility of watching games live on a device, primetime games live, and watching all the replays, which I'm watching all the replays, but continuously plays end before they're cut off, before they're actually over, skipping to the next play. I guess that's in an effort to cut out all the commercials, which is good, but why are you cutting out plays?
There are better ways of doing it.
Right. And Thursday night, I wanted to watch the game on my computer, my desktop. And from what I understood, you would be able to do that you would be able to watch it on a device. Now, I guess a computer doesn't count as a device, because I was not able to watch
tablet or smartphone.
Yeah, which is complete baloney. Because if you can watch a game on replay on a desktop, on a computer, why can't you watch a live game on the?
I agree. I think that's ridiculous.
It has to be.
Couple of weeks I tried to. I thought it was terrible that they wouldn't let you do it. I have to watch games on my phone.
This tiny little device, I have to watch it on this.
Yeah.
I'll take not watching it on my nice TV, but can't I watch it on a computer? No, apparently I can't. So
no, you watch the replay on your computer, but you can't watch the game.
So I ended up not really watching Thursday Night Football live, and I wanted to go back and watch it, but the commercials haven't been edited out of it yet. The game is up on NFL Plus, and I'm sure they'll get around to editing the commercials. But if I want to watch it today, I'll check again today. I haven't checked today if the commercials are out yet. Yesterday, they were not. And it's just kind of like, I'm not going to waste my time watching the commercials. If I wanted to do that, I would have watched it live on my phone. Right. But if I didn't want to watch it on my phone, I want to watch it on my computer, and I get the added addition of no commercials. But now I have to sit around, wait a few days for them to edit out the commercials. I don't know why they even put up the game with commercials. No. Why don't put up the game until it's edited and ready to watch?
Well, they're trying to be fast as far as getting the game on the site, but get it on the site the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If you got to take a little extra time to get the commercials cut out of it, take the time.
If I can't watch it immediately after Thursday Night Football, if I have to wait till the next morning, if it takes you 12 hours to cut out the commercials, right. Fine, do that. But get the commercials cut out in 12 hours.
Yes.
This 36-hour baloney. It's been 36 hours now, and the commercials are still there. So that's just not good. And the play is getting cut out mid, like I'm watching a play and he's not tackled yet, and it's skipping to the next play. That happens constantly. Yes. Constantly, and almost every game that's happening. And that's not good.
Another problem with watching it on the phone is the NFL app keeps crashing.
Really?
It's crashing. It crashed about 10 times in the first half of last week's game.
Wow.
It was awful. Just completely terrible.
That's bad.
Yeah, it really is.
And we're out of time. I thought another cool thing would be to grade some of the other apps that I watch. Sunday Ticket sometimes crashes. You bringing up the apps that crash reminded me of that. Peacock has crashed a couple times on me watching Sunday Night Football. So I think the grade I would give the best grade to an app where you can watch NFL the highest grade I would give to Paramount Plus. I think Paramount Plus has been solid, but I think the Falcons are on CBS this week. So if you don't have CBS and you have Paramount Plus and you live in Atlanta, you can watch the Falcons on there, and that's been a good product so far this season for the games. But most weeks the Falcons are on Fox, and Paramount Plus isn't really helpful if you want to watch the Falcons. So
Right.
Peacock's been okay, a little crashy. Sunday Ticket, it's okay. The Sunday Ticket I have is the app, not the actual, I don't have DirecTV. So there's that as well. But okay, we gotta wrap up. My Super Bowl pick, I'm sticking with the same teams. I'm not jumping off the Eagles bandwagon or the Bills. I know the Bills lost, and that was kind of my potential to jump off them to somebody else. But you mentioned all the injuries they're dealing with. And I think when they come back healthy, they're still the best team. And they almost won last week. They very easily could have beaten Miami despite all those injuries if Josh Allen doesn't skip a ball into the end zone on 4th down, or if they just are able to spike it a little bit faster and get one more playoff at the end of the 4th quarter. So
Mark Sanchez has to be happy because nobody's talking about the butt fumble anymore.
Yeah, and Dan Orlowski's pretty happy too. Jimmy Garoppolo walking out of the back of the end zone. Dan Orlowski has company as well.
Yes, he does. Right. Yeah, Orlovsky, boy, if the end zones were only 12 yards deep instead of
right. Yeah.
Been fine.
Yep.
But oh man. I'm telling you, I like Baltimore so far. I like the way Baltimore's played. I think they've been tough, and we'll stick with Philadelphia for the moment as long as they stay undefeated. So
I do not like that Ravens secondary. I mean, against the it blew the game against the Dolphins, and then even against Mac Jones, I know they got 4 turnovers, 3 picks, but they were giving up big plays against Mac Jones, who's he's like a below average quarterback. He's so I want to see them solidify that secondary before I say the Ravens are ahead of the Bills for me.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for tuning in this week, everybody. We'll be back next Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Have a great week, everyone.